win to kind of prove my point. I like seeing that.
Yeah.
If you go back a few episodes, I don't even know if we can still see them, but if you can go back to like our Stanley Cup playoffs thing, it'll
the first one. So here's this. It's kind of the same deal as what we were talking about with the NBA. You root for Pittsburgh. They're the reigning champs. Not going to be much of a series. Yeah, you know, they're going to be the obvious favorites against
Nashville.
Nashville may do it because what can't Nashville do at this point?
Smashville.
Like, they just keep blowing everybody's opinions and forethought out of the water. They swept the Black Ops. Like, what else can't they do? So what does that matter anymore? So I'm obviously not gonna root for Pittsburgh in this one. I think the obvious better series is going to be Ottawa.
Because you have these two teams that no one really knows about. You know, in the West you did have, Anaheim, and you had both Anaheim and Chicago, and those are kind of ones that a lot of people knew. You know a lot of these guys, and then you have Pittsburgh and Washington. If neither of those teams in the Stanley Cup Finals, even more exciting.
Right, but if you're for novice hockey guys like us, I think if you're guys out there who are kind of elitist when it comes to hockey and love all of that, it's like boring. It's like watching a Super Bowl with like the Texans.
Patriots.
No, it's like watching a Super Bowl with like the Texans and like the Jaguars.
That couldn't happen.
You know what I mean?
Like in the same division, AFC South.
Okay, sorry, football guy. It's when these two teams that aren't championship teams, you know what I mean? These two teams that barely scraping by, they get into the lowest seed, or like the Dolphins and the Texans. You know what I mean? Where they're like bottom of the playoffs, barely got in.
Still gonna happen.
Listen, dude, it's been a while. I'm on
I guess it's not football season.
I'm on a drought. I gotta fire back up the football gears. But you know what I mean? Where it's like two teams that are kind of like that. Who cares?
I want to see you pull. I want to see you say
You want me to finally
that could actually happen?
Texans Titans.
Nope. Those are both AFC teams.
You got me here, dude. I've got to get my football gears going again. And this is torturous. You're gonna have me think of this. Give me a low seed. Give me a middle of the pack NFC team.
The Giants.
The Giants aren't middle of the pack. They've won Super Bowls in the recent years.
10 years ago. 2008.
Wow. Time.
You got Giants versus the Giants-Texans. There you go. Giants-Texans. Super Bowl 53.
But that wouldn't be as exciting. That's what I'm saying. It's the point of all of this I'm getting at. It wouldn't be as exciting when you've got two teams that aren't really supposed to be, in the terms of history, supposed to be in a Super Bowl. Finally getting to it. And yeah, that's all right and all this stuff. But it's exciting in the sense that it's these two teams that shouldn't be there and they're doing it. Yeah, whatever. But if you've got two Titan teams clashing it out in the playoffs or in the Stanley Cup Finals, I think that's way more exciting.
Well, I guess we'll see if Pittsburgh can pull it out at home Thursday night, or if Ottawa can pull the upset on the road. Looking at the series, the Senators have done well in Pittsburgh. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what goes on.
It'll probably be Pittsburgh.
Hope not.
It probably will, though. Sidney Crosby?
I don't want Connor's team to do well.
You're right. But Pittsburgh's the notoriously better franchise and better team. So it's, of course it's going to happen.
All right, so now we bring to you our new segment. It is called El Fuego
El Fuego Cabeza. So here's the gist of this new segment. So here's the gist.
For those of you that aren't as bilingual as Cole and I,
yeah,
it means
El
firehead.
Fuego Cabeza means firehead.
Hothead, if you will.
Not only, it's a double entendre of sorts.
Because he's ginger.
For you podcast listeners out there that don't really know what we look like because you're not watching the live stream right now, I do in fact have red hair.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter. At McClain Baxley, at Cole Ferguson.
Yeah. So red hair, firehead. Also, I've been known time and again to kind of blow up on this podcast and kind of go off about things that sometimes warrant it, sometimes don't.
So we're dedicating a segment to Cole to rant. And this week's rant is about D. Rose.
Derrick Rose. In the headlines today, it was talking about how he's shopping around with the Timberwolves and the San Antonio Spurs. The Timberwolves and the San Antonio Spurs. Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose, it's time to give up. It's time to retire. Stop pulling this facade on everybody else in the NBA and your career. It's time to end what you have going and take your 2011 MVP, retire, and try to scrape into the history books and maybe get a Hall of Fame bid. Maybe. It's time to end it, though, because let me tell you something, Derrick Rose. Let me tell you something, Mr. Rose. It's done. You've peaked. You're on the descent. You've hit everything you're going to accomplish in your career. There's nothing else you can do. So what you're doing by just sticking around and going to teams like the Timberwolves and trying to, hop on the bandwagon and pull the Kevin Durant and get onto a perennial good team like the Spurs, though you're going to be a sixth man. Your career is over. You're done. You've got nothing left. And so you kind of corralling these headlines and getting everybody riled up for more Derrick Rose action. Everybody keeps talking about you. It seems like every year, towards the end of the season into the offseason, you kind of rope in everybody. What's Derrick Rose going to do? Is he back? Is his knee going to be all right? Is he going to get injured this season? No, you're not. You're done, Derrick Rose. Retire. You're finished. You've hit everything. You've accomplished everything. The Bulls, out the window. The Knicks, kaputs. You've got nothing left. You're not going to win a championship with the Wolves. You might win a championship with the Spurs, but nobody's going to respect you for it. Nobody's going to think of that Spurs team as the Derrick Rose-led team. Best case scenario, here's what happens. You get onto the Timberwolves. You get onto the Spurs. You march on to the Western Conference Finals, scrape by, maybe beat the Golden State Warriors where you're a 6th or 7th man. Maybe you're getting some starting time, depending on what you do.
Here's a refraction to what you said. Manu Ginobili.
I know he's retired. They've got spots open. But here's this. Do you trust Derrick Rose anymore? It seems like every time he has an opportunity to step up and lead a team and own a team, here's what happens. ACL injury, knees done, busted up. Or here's what happened. Chokes, doesn't show up to practice, doesn't show up to games, doesn't do crap, and gets fined for it. You can't do stuff like that and then expect to go and be a high-value player in the offseason for teams like the Spurs, who are going to get to the Western Conference Finals. They're going to make a noise in the NBA. Or an up-and-coming team like the Timberwolves. What are you trying to do? What are you thinking, Derrick Rose? You've got nothing left. It's time to retire. Retire. Put some ice pack on that knee, go to physical therapy, spend time with your kid that you're missing practices and games to hang out with, and end your career, Derrick Rose.
We'd still love to have you on for an interview if you're listening to this, Mr. Rose. So while Cole calms down...
And that has been El Fuego Cabeza.
Yes. So that's El Fuego Cabeza. Be sure to check out that as much as you can. We'd like to give some thank yous real quick as we are on the show. We have a new intern, Mr. Tony Kesarwani, close friend of the show.
You probably won't see him, but here's something about that. An intern who isn't seen, making all the magic happen behind the camera, behind the screen, that's an intern who's doing his job.
We are paying him 100% of our profits. So don't worry about calling like child services on us or anything.
Yeah, we're getting everything done. He's being taken care of.
Yes.
So thank you to him. And if you look at the new studio, this masterpiece here could not have been, brought to fruition. You see, we've got hundreds and hundreds of sports cards with many different sports, setting the tone for a perfect background to a perfect sports podcast. This could not have been done without the help of Miss Karen DeVito. So thank you very much for that. Love her dearly. So thank you very much for that. And it makes the magic happen on camera beautiful. As beautiful as a sports podcast can be.
Yes.
I'll probably edit that out for the podcast right there. That's probably just for the live stream because they won't know what we're talking about.
They can visualize that. And then force them to watch the podcast or watch the YouTube.
Yeah, but then we got that going. So what you're hearing right now, live stream viewers, this is exclusive. You're never going to hear this again because it's live. You won't hear this on the podcast because that's what podcasts do.
But if you are listening to the podcast, be sure to follow us on our Instagram, USLC Sports Podcast.
Where you can hit some, that's where we're live as well as YouTube.
Yes. YouTube is Unsportsmanlike. You can see our beautiful logo. Speaking of our beautiful logo, we have something cool to show off.
Now, I said that my football gears have to get going again. What better to do for that than get a helmet, overhaul it with our logo. This is ground stages of what we've got going, folks. This is ground